It's gonna be the. We're gonna bring you inside real quick. Get you out of the warm car, right? Now step out for me. We're gonna go through these doors over here.
For years after their divorce, Shanna Gardner and Jared Bridegan remained connected through their 2 children. But according to investigators, much of the communication surrounding the 2 households took place through text messages and emails. Shanna told police that she and Jared communicated primarily through messages and avoided direct interaction during custody exchanges. She also said that over time, Kirsten became increasingly involved in that communication, while Mario sometimes communicated about the children as well. The messages investigators reviewed offer a different kind of look at the relationships surrounding this case than witness interviews do. They document disagreements over parenting, religion, custody schedules, communication between the households, and decisions involving the children. Some of the messages are directly between Jared and Shanna. Others involve their spouses, group conversations, or people close to the conflict. Some were sent years before Jared was killed. Others came much closer to February 2022. On their own, these messages do not prove a motive or establish responsibility for Jared Bridegan's murder, but they provide a written record of the tensions investigators later examined when trying to understand the relationships surrounding the case. In this video, we're going through some of the most relevant messages recovered during the investigation, in context and in chronological order. In late January 2022, less than a month before Jared Bridegan was killed, another disagreement emerged between Jared and Shanna Gardner. According to the investigative filing, on January 24th, Jared emailed Shanna to tell her that he was planning to have one of their twins baptized in the Mormon church. Investigators wrote that the child had become increasingly interested in the Mormon faith and wanted to be more involved in it while spending time with Jared and his wife, Kirsten. 2 days later, a forensic download of Jared's phone revealed a group conversation involving Jared, Kirsten, Shanna, and Mario Fernandez-Saldana. According to the affidavit, investigators interpreted the exchange as showing that Shanna had reacted poorly to the news about the baptism. In the message quoted in the filing, Kirsten told Shanna that the child was emotional after date night because she was under the impression that Shanna would not allow her to be baptized. The exchange does not tell us everything that was said between the families about the issue, but investigators later included it as part of the broader conflict over religion, parenting decisions, and the children. On February 16, 2022, the night Jared was killed, investigators documented one final communication between Jared and Shanna. Shanna told police that the 2 communicated almost entirely through text messages. At 6:29 p.m., Jared sent a simple message telling her that he was there to pick up their children for their regular date night. According to the report, the children were returned at approximately 7:45 p.m. Shanna said she did not speak with him when he dropped them off. Later that evening, Jared left the neighborhood with his 2-year-old daughter in the car and headed toward home. Investigators continued examining the communication between Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez-Saldana after Jared's death. On March 3, 2022, records cited by investigators show that Mario and Shanna exchanged numerous text messages throughout the day. The following day, Mario continued communicating with Shanna and members of her family while he was traveling from North Carolina to Pennsylvania. That same afternoon, the twins were interviewed by the Child Protective Team. The investigative records document the timing and frequency of these contacts, but they do not provide the content of the messages. For investigators, the communication patterns themselves became part of the larger timeline they were building around the case. Several months later, investigators recovered another brief exchange dated August 18, 2022. One message reads, "I don't want anyone to know." Seconds later, a response came from a phone number police records identify as belonging to Kim Jensen. "I'm not." The forensic extract does not identify the direction of the first message, and the screenshot provides no additional context explaining what the 2 were discussing. So this exchange should not be interpreted as evidence of concealment related to Jared's murder, but it was preserved among the communications investigators collected as they continued examining the people surrounding Shanna Gardner. By early 2023, investigators believe Shanna Gardner was becoming increasingly careful about how she discussed the case. According to this affidavit, Gardner repeatedly said she did not feel free to talk openly because she believed her phone might be tapped, and that law enforcement was watching and tracking it. The document also says that during conversations about Henry Tin and Gardner and another person discussed using a different phone, reactivating a secondary phone, or moving their conversations to FaceTime. Investigators further noted that Gardner specifically wondered whether FaceTime screens could be recorded. And in one of the most telling details, the affidavit says Gardner mentioned leaving her devices outside the room during a therapy session so she could talk. In her words, without paranoia. This section does not prove what she believed was actually happening to her phone. But it does show that by this stage, investigators believe she was thinking carefully about surveillance, communication, and how to avoid being monitored. The concern about phone surveillance soon became more specific. In an intercepted call on February 1st, investigators heard a suggestion that this weekend maybe Brad should call Sage. Sage Hupiina is Shanna Gardner's older sister who was scheduled to visit Shanna in Washington that same weekend. Shanna responded, "I like that," followed by the suggestion that the two should catch up. According to the detective who wrote the affidavit, the tone and pace of that part of the conversation were noticeably different from the rest of the call. Investigators also wrote that they were not aware of an existing relationship that would explain why those two people needed to catch up. The timing drew even more attention because Sage was scheduled to be with Shanna from February 2nd through February 5th. The detective believed the plan was to use phones that were not directly associated with Shanna, allowing a conversation to take place without using her own device. Just days after investigators documented those conversations about using other phones, the investigation moved from interception to a physical search. On February 6, 2023, federal agents and local police executed search warrants on Shanna Gardner, her home, and her vehicle in Washington. According to the ATF report, officers inside the house said they were looking for phones. During the search, an older cell phone was identified as Shanna's old phone. An agent photographed it and collected it as evidence. Investigators also took possession of the phone Shanna had with her in her Apple Watch. The timing is significant because investigators had just documented discussions about secondary phones, FaceTime, and concerns that Shanna's communications were being monitored. By this point, the digital communications were no longer simply background evidence. They had become a central part of the investigation. Taken together, these records show why digital communication became such an important part of the investigation. Investigators examined years of conflict between Jared and Shanna, the messages exchanged around the children, communication after Jared's murder, and later conversations about surveillance, secondary phones, and alternative ways to communicate. None of these messages, on their own, prove who was responsible for Jared Bridegan's murder, but together, they gave investigators a detailed timeline of the relationships surrounding the case and helped shape where the investigation went next. By February 2023, investigators were no longer just reviewing messages. They were intercepting communications, tracking the use of different phones, and physically searching for devices they believed could contain further evidence. And the investigation into Shanna Gardner and the people around her was far from over.
Inside real quick, get you out of the warm car, right? Now step out for me. We're gonna go through these doors over here. And then there's gonna be a hallway to your left there. Have you take a left there for me. And we'll go down to this last door here on the left. Have you stand there for me. And I'll have you take a seat over here. And what I'll do, actually, if you want to face the wall for me. So what I'll do is I don't want to keep you in these cuffs for a long time. I know they kind of hurt. So what I'll do is I'll take one hand out and I'm just going to attach it to the railing right there, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Yep. If you want to take that hand, place the top of your head for me. And if you want to step to your left or turn the other way, I'll have you take a seat.
This one? Or-
Turn the other way for me. All right. And then if you want to take a seat for me.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. I'm just going to scoot you a little bit. There you go.